Hi everybody. I want to take a couple minutes to talk about our first big writing bit of composition as we work towards our persuasive essay. We are going to be working on assignment 1, milestone 1, the writing notes. And to access this, you want to be in MindEdge for this module. And remember, in MindEdge, you can click previous and next to kind of navigate. And we can also do the drop-down menu here and kind of scroll through. And we are on 2-2 assignment 1, milestone 1, the writing notes. So what I want to do is kind of take us through what we can expect with this assignment and also take a look at the rubric as well. Now, it's really important to remember that this is one of those assignments that we complete in MindEdge, and then we need to download it to a Word document and submit it in Blackboard as well. It's one of those dual submission assignments. If you only complete it in MindEdge and you do not upload it to Blackboard, I will not be able to grade it for you. So let's make sure that we complete it both in MindEdge and also upload it in Blackboard as well. And we'll get to that more in just a minute. Alright, now we're going to want to start fully exploring the idea, the topic that we're focusing on for the remainder of our project. With this assignment, we're going to use guided prompting questions to help create some writing notes that is going to help you better understand how to kind of approach this persuasive essay. We want to be sure to look at both what we're kind of expecting our assignment to be in MindEdge and also the rubric as well. And we'll go over the rubric in just a couple minutes. As we're constructing our writing notes, we want to be considering our argument. What's the point of this persuasive paper that we're working on? What are we trying to persuade our audience of? So we want to focus on our argument. We also want to think about key points that we're going to use from our resources, from our research to support our key points as well. We want to be thinking about our audience. Remember, audience awareness is really important. I am not the only person in your audience. Who are you trying to convince? Who are you trying to persuade? We also want to think about the goal of our overall paper, as well as start thinking about those potential research resources that we just mentioned, as well as the evidence that we're going to be using from them. And we're going to be answering prompting questions to kind of reach and hit these points. I want you to remember that in responding to each of our prompt questions, we want to make sure that we are writing fully developed paragraphs. And remember, a paragraph needs to be a minimum of 5 sentences. We want it to be around 5 to 8 sentences, although 8 is not as much of a hard cap as that minimum 5 sentences. We need to make sure that we are writing 5 sentences per paragraph. And we'll go over the rubric in just a minute. Now again, your responses are going to be saved to your notebook in MindEdge, but you also need to download it into a Word document and submit that Word document. One of the things that I ask you when you do that is to open up that Word document and format it as a properly constructed essay. And let's put our name at the top. Let's use the MLA guidelines. At least attempt to, okay? Make sure that we aren't just downloading it and posting, submitting that unformatted document. Let's open it up, indent those paragraphs, put your name on it, put a title on it, that kind of stuff, okay? Alright, so our first question, our first prompt is, your argument is the main point that you're trying to make in your essay, and it should clearly state your opinion on the topic. So we want to say, what is the main point? What is your stance? So for my example, where I'm talking about how text lingo isn't all that great in a classroom, I'm going to say my topic, but I'm also going to clearly say my opinion. I don't think that text lingo has a place in academic classrooms. So clearly say what your topic is and what your opinion is. And then we want to describe the argument that we're going to be addressing in our persuasive essay and include how that argument is going to be connected to your major or your field of work. Remember that our topic needs to be connected in some way to our career or our major that we're going to school for. Number 2, the key points are the pieces of evidence to support an author's main goal. You guys know this. So what are some 3 possible key points? Another way to think about this is subtopics to support your main argument. So give us 3 separate key points and tell us how we're going to use those key points to support our main argument. Number 3 is your audience. Remember, I am not the only person in your audience. So who is it that you would kind of want to read your essay. And sometimes it helps to think about this as a little bit of a role-playing activity, because I mean, I will be the one reading your papers, but I am not the only person that you're writing your paper for. So who is your audience, and what challenges will you have supporting your argument to that demographic? It's important to be aware of who our audience is, because we need to effectively communicate to that audience in hopes of persuading them to see our point. If we are writing to a bunch of English majors, for example, we're not going to use a bunch of heavy-handed statistics, right? Usually English majors aren't super great with math, so doing statistic after statistic is not a good rhetorical strategy to reach them. So we do need to be actively thinking about who our audience is, how we're going to be writing for them, and what potential challenges we'll have in supporting our argument with them. Our fourth prompt is thinking about our goal. What is your hope to do with this essay? Yes, we are trying to persuade them, but what is your, is that the only thing? Are you just trying to get your audience to see your point, or maybe you want them to agree with you and really believe what you're trying to say? So what goal do you hope to accomplish with this essay, and what will this essay need in order to achieve that goal? What are you going to have to do in order to convince your audience to believe you, to be persuaded by what you're saying? Number 5 is our potential resources. And these are the pieces of evidence that could, not necessarily will, but could be used to support your argument. I want you to list some of those potential resources that you will be using. Remember, we're using opposing viewpoints, so give me a couple of those article titles. What will you be using? And provide a brief description with how they will reinforce your argument. Now, number 5 can be 1 or 2 paragraphs, but remember, we need 5 sentences per paragraph. Number 6 is using those resources you identified above, align specific key points of your argument with your supporting resources to kind of start establishing an effective essay structure. So essentially with number 5, you're telling me what resources you are using. Number 6, you're telling me what kind of key points from those resources will you be using. We're kind of starting to look for subtopics and how we're going to format our paper. Number 7, based on your argument, determine strategic places where integrating evidence would be most effective and provide a rationale for each. So you've got your key points. Where are you going in your essay to integrate specific evidence? All right, and you can include some specific examples of your evidence as well. As you fill out these prompts and the blank spaces, you can hit submit, and that's going to save it for you into your notebook. And remember, there's my fan. As you are writing these, we want to write 5 to 8 sentences each. You can certainly write more than 1 paragraph, of course, for each one. And then you want to submit each of those to save them, but then you absolutely have to download it into a Word document, okay? Open up that Word document and then format it, put your name on it. Let's start working with titles, indent your paragraphs, double space it, format it into an essay. Use MLA if you're familiar. It's not super required right now, but we do want to start trying to format our paper with appropriate doc styles. We will have the option in the future of using MLA or APA, but until we determine which documentation formatting style we'll be using, I want you guys to use MLA. So open up that Word document, format it, save it, and then be sure to upload it in assignment submissions in Blackboard course. Remember, if you only submit it in MindEdge, I will not be able to grade it. So we want to make sure that we do our dual submission, submit it in MindEdge, and submit it in Blackboard as well. We're going to go up to the top real quick and talk about our assignment guidelines and rubric, okay, just to make sure that we're on the same page. And remember, this rubric is also available in Blackboard as well. It's going to be the same thing. It just looks more like a paper in Blackboard, and here it looks like a nice little part of the web page. All right, so for this milestone, we're going to be using our guided prompts to write notes to kind of help you start thinking about that persuasive essay. We want to pay attention to our critical elements in our writing plan. Remember, we've got those 7 questions that we'll be answering our prompts for. You need to be sure to do your interactive activity in MindEdge and also submit it in Blackboard. And then this is the feedback that I will be using to kind of to grade your paper, to assess your paper. Remember, we have our critical elements, and then we have the levels of proficiency. Proficient is going to be 100%. Needs improvement is, we're doing good, but maybe we could do a little bit better. And then we also have not evident. We want to make sure that we have a paragraph talking about our argument. And to get proficient, we want to make sure that we fully describe the argument to be addressed in your essay, including how the argument is connected to your major or your career. The second critical element is those key points. We want to really be determining the key points and rationale that will be helpful in supporting your argument. So you got your argument, what key points are we going to use to support that? And then we want to be aware of our audience. We need to identify our audience and determine potential challenges. On this note, remember, I am not the only person in your audience. You are writing for a bigger group of people than just me. And don't assume that you're not going to have any challenges connecting. I want you to identify at least one potential challenge, if not a couple more, because we really need to be writing in a way that connects with our audience. And so we really want to kind of think about the challenges that we might have in doing so. It's really going to kind of help us use our evidence in an effective way if we think about the challenges we might have with our audience. The next critical element that we want to focus on is our goal. Establish the goal that you want to accomplish with your essay. We're trying to persuade our audience, but why? Why is it important? Okay, resources is our next critical element. List the potential resources that you will be using and provide a brief description of each. In this section, you want to say, I'm going to be using article so-and-so, and this is what this article is about, essentially, is what we're doing with our resources section. So you can have a paragraph or two for that one. The next critical element will be supporting those resources. Start thinking about key points, those key points arguments with your resources. So what we're trying to do here is say, hey, this is our key points, and this is the article that I'm going to use to support that, okay? And if you have any questions with that, I know that one's kind of a funny one, let me know. So just to kind of reiterate, with the supporting resources, you're going to take your key points from above and say, hey, I'm using this article to support that key point. And then the next critical element is going to be your integration of evidence. You're going to start determining the places where integrating evidence would be most effective and kind of start providing that rationale for each one. And then finally, we have our articulation of response. Remember, on all of our rubrics, we want to be aware of how we're articulating ourselves. And what this means is that we're kind of using good grammar, our spelling's correct, we're using the right there, and we're using the right it's, that kind of stuff. And also our organization. Okay, so let's make sure that we're paying attention to our organization. And also, I want to encourage you to make sure that we are writing proper paragraph lengths of a minimum of 5 sentences. So that's our writing plans, our writing notes. It's a lot of information to take in, I know. So what I encourage you to do is read through the MindEdge stuff, read through the rubrics, watch this video, which you already done. And if you have any questions at all, please do not hesitate to contact me. This is our first big step towards that persuasive essay, and I want to make sure we're all on the same page. So if you have any questions, you can chat with me, email me, text me, you can call me. We can also connect on the general questions discussion forum, and I want to do a shout out to the SMHU OWC Online Writing Center. They can help with these kind of assignments as well. So if you have any questions at all while you're doing this, just let me know. You guys got this. You're going to do great.